Did I get you with the title? Let me explain. Buffyverse rankings are a contentious thing. Is season 6 of Buffy the best or the worst? Is Dawn annoying or misunderstood? Who is the worst boyfriend? One ranking, though, that doesn't really seem to be contested is Angel season 4 sucks. But on my rewatch of the show, I realized something shocking. Groundbreaking, even. I was enjoying myself. Season 4 was good? And no, I obviously don't mean the giant dumpster fire in the middle of the season. But I was consistently entertained, engaged, and wanting to watch more. When I thought back to what gripped me about the season, I could think of so many examples. And the whole time, I could hear the chorus of disgruntled fans in my head. How could I possibly feel this way when season 4 is obviously the worst in the Buffyverse?
Shut up.
So I wanted to analyze my thoughts, sift between my own experience, critiques, and popular discourse, and figure out how do I feel about season 4. Before I jump in, I just want to say that this video would not be possible without my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support me and the channel, Patreon is the best way to do that, so go check that out. You can see more of my writing process, behind the scenes stuff, and for me, it's a great way to get to interact with you guys more. So a truly huge thank you to patrons for helping me continue doing what I love. In the spirit of this video, here's what worked for me about the season. Certain character choices, the tone, the pacing, and the final arc. While season 4 butchers some characters, there are a ton that do get to shine. These character moments are the bright spots that often keep me watching. Faith's return is so wonderful. It makes me wish she'd stayed on as a main or recurring character. She just fits as well, if not better here than on Buffy. She's confident, she's a lot more comfortable in herself, and her journey through Angel's mind is a highlight. The downside is that she and Angel hardly get any proper bonding time, but the little they do get is perfect, in character, and adorable.
That vice is plenty versa. I even start. It's only gonna lead to hugging and...
We can't have that.
As usual, her kicking the shit out of Connor and putting him in his place is deeply refreshing.
Haven't seen what I can do.
Let's not.
I'm not crazy about everything they do with Wes this season, but my god, he and Lila are so compelling. The push and pull, the whole time wondering how much of it is sincere and how much is manipulation. Every single time a scene with them starts, I am paying attention. I still think Lila dies too soon, but the entire scene with Wes and her body is some of the most beautiful, complex drama on the show. I love that it's imperfect, unfinished, and I love his Freudian slip.
You decapitate a loved one, you don't expect them to come visiting.
Why was Gwen not a recurring cast member? This is the closest we've ever gotten in the Buffyverse to proper superpowers. Yeah, she's kind of X-Men, but that's fun. She blends with the team well, she's got a dark backstory that fits into the show, and is a woman. Everything Angel the show needs. I especially like her relationship with Gunn, which I think brings out the best in both of them. She's just perfect for the show. She's someone who has every reason to think of herself as a monster, and at times even embraces this while trying to figure out what normal looks like for her. She's, in this way, a great mirror for Angel. The real downside to Gwen is that it just feels a bit like missed potential. I would have loved to see more about her powers and where they come from and how she finds her balance. Overall, just a really fun character that makes me pay attention to any scene that she's in. I've heard complaints that season 4 Angelus is lesser or out of character compared to Buffy season 2 Angelus, and while I can understand where these complaints are coming from, I have to disagree. I love the episodes we get with him. Angelus has evolved alongside Angel. It makes sense that an Angelus emerging from do-gooding, friend-having Angel would be different than the one we saw in Buffy. The Angelus we get here showcases the core of who he is and his power. A brilliant, clever manipulator who can do the most damage with his words from behind the bars of a cage. We've gotten to see Angel pretending to be Angelus before, but now we get to see the reverse. We get to see Angelus pretending to be Angel. And it's such a fun and layered performance. Him resenting Angel for what he's become and getting back at the team in part for this is some nice continuity from I Only Have Eyes for You. The stuff with Angelus and Angel in Orpheus is both a fascinating expansion of Angel's character, the magical metaphysics, and the message of the show. I don't have a ton to say about this cameo, other than it's great, I love that she flirts with Fred, and I like that she mid-key puts Wes in his place.
I've seen a darkness in myself I'm not sure you'd even begin to understand.
I flayed a guy alive and tried to destroy the world.
Oh.
Deserved. Number 2, the tone. This season has such a persistent sense of dread, which could be fatiguing if kept up for a whole show, but for a season, I kind of love it. More than any other in the Buffyverse, this feels like a proper, actual apocalypse. I love that everything just gets progressively more batshit, even to ridiculous lengths.
Better step on it. The rubes are catching up.
In addition to feeling like a real apocalypse, this is also one of the seasons of the Buffyverse that just feels the most supernatural. The world feels just its most magical, ancient, powerful, mysterious. You've got the Beast, the Rotette, zombies. Through the imagery, the ongoing puzzle, and the dark forces building, they just create such an immersive vibe. There's just a mystical spookiness that I don't quite get in any other Buffyverse season the same way. And especially going into season 5, I think it rounds out the universe really well. The pacing. I also really appreciate how serialized this season is. Every episode picks up basically where the last one left off. It's got a breakneck pace that's not sustainable in the long run necessarily, but it's refreshing and, dare I say it, fun for a show that has sometimes dragged in its one-offs. I have something positive to say about every era of Angel, but there are absolutely episodes and even multi-episode stretches that can feel like molasses to wade through. While season 4 isn't perfect, in every season 4 episode, there is something exciting, shocking, or significant happening. Finally, there's the Jasmine arc, the justification for all of the more and less conceivable hoop jumping and melodrama. The Jasmine arc has this otherworldly eeriness that's hard to put your finger on, and I think the arc is especially successful at being horror. Like, this is horror, specifically like an eldritch kind of horror. You don't quite know what she is or what she actually wants. There's this consistent uneasiness to her that the show really hasn't touched before and doesn't really again. This arc definitely has its problems, and it may be too short for the ambition it has, but it's just so philosophically compelling. It's got possibly some of my favorite lines and musings in the show.
And it is better. Not harsh and cruel. The way that Angel likes it, so he has a reason to fight.
Our fate has to be our own, or we're nothing.
What a significant thought experiment for a show about agency and redemption. Angel laments in season 1 that he sometimes misses the clarity he had while soulless.
Works because there's no guilt, there's no torment, no consequences.
The lack of inner conflict, the certainty that comes from the absence of meaningful choice. And Jasmine is a kind of flipped play on this. Through her mind control, her subjects have that same untarnished clarity about what their role is, about what is good and right for the world. And so I love seeing Angel, even mind-controlled, submit to the peace of that fake clarity, and why this is something that hurts him especially. It's just delicious stuff to chew on.
Isn't it a relief? Constant questioning. It's finally over.
There's also something meta to be said about a guiding hand influencing the events of a story. If the characters are the product of writing and never had any say except what the writers and the external factors of the show required. Additionally, in this arc, belatedly but still wonderfully, Fred finally gets to shine. This is such a long time coming, and it's completely left behind in the next season, but it's such a joy while it's happening. Until now, Fred has so often been a side character or mainly involved in the world's worst love triangle, and now we get to see her on her own in a major plot-relevant story. I love the focus we get on her, the showcase of her cleverness, her survival instincts, and that beat between her and Angel.
Not a champion.
Everything I see says different.
And the way the arc ends is so perfectly bittersweet. The characters aren't sure they did the right thing, and we aren't either. I mean, we are because we can see the hollowness of a world without choice. But Jasmine wasn't completely wrong.
I murdered thousands to save billions.
In the simple trolley problem of this equation, they did technically make the wrong call. But It wasn't just about victim math, it was about the show's driving message, the meaning that's created by individuals and communities through their actions and choices, the potential for change in all of us, all of which rests on exactly what Angel reaffirms.
I offered paradise! You chose this!
Because I could. Because that's what you took away from us. Choice.
And look where free will has gotten you.
Hey, I didn't say we were smart. I said it's our right.
And I also love what this arc does for Gunn. He gets one of the best lines in the series, and we get to see the traits that have made Gunn the embodiment of the show's thesis pretty much from the beginning.
We really are just pieces being moved around a board.
And we'll kick it over and start a new game.
Now, that's not to say that this story doesn't have holes. It does. Like, why is Jasmine ugly? Like, what does that have to do with anything? How does that actually undermine her message? What about that guy who gets messed up when she touches him? It's got problems, but in the scheme of things, I admire the ambition so much that I kind of don't care. And maybe the best thing about the Jasmine arc is how it sets up the premise of Season 5, possibly the coolest and most appropriate soft reboot the show could have taken. A genuine jaw-drop moment the first time you watch it. With all this said, though, of course, we do have to contend with the not minimal problems with this season. So, the bad stuff. Cordy's ascension at the end of Season 3 is possibly one of the most awkward and forced developments on the show. I suppose we could retroactively assume this as the point, if Jasmine/the writers were orchestrating this from the beginning, but honestly, I don't think even that makes this feel the least bit better. Cordy's Windows Movie Player era for the first 3 episodes is also jarring. Not just because of the bad effects, but it's just this tacked on portion to every episode as like a lazy reminder, like, she's here, don't worry, we didn't forget about her.
What are you, deficient? Get me out of here!
And still, sadly, these shoehorned, goofy-ass moments are little treasures this season because they're the last scraps of Cordy we'll see until you're welcome. When people say that this season ruined her character, I will agree. With a caveat, which is that it's not her, and we know it's not her. But even so, regardless of whether we understand later that this was not Cordy, the text doesn't do a good enough job making that clear, so by the time that we're told outright, we've watched enough cosmic horror believing that it was her that the damage has been done. It's not made better by the fact that Charisma also seems kind of miserable. Her acting is weak, both because of poor writing, her mistreatment, and her clear unhappiness with the direction of her character. Because writing is one thing, but understanding the actors as people and the experiences they were having, being mistreated in the scenes that you're watching, is wholly different. And this is as good an opportunity as any to say that any other praise I might have for parts of the season comes with the heavy disclaimer that none of this, in any way, dismisses or condones Charisma's treatment as an actor, treatment that bled into the intentional smearing of her character's memory. If you don't know what happened between Charisma and Joss, I will link an article about the situation in the description. As lukewarm as I might feel towards the Buffy audio reboot, I am so glad that it gives actors like Charisma, and to a lesser extent Amber Benson, a chance to reclaim their character's narrative that was poorly cut short. There's a really good video that addresses the Connor situation well. Essentially, Connor being the way he is...
You think you can just breeze in here, telling everyone what to do? You're not a part of this.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
...isn't a problem in and of itself. It makes complete sense with the character's background. But the character himself just kind of spins his wheels for a season without really evolving or changing or showing other layers until it's much too late. And it's a shame because this is a character that could have been explored far more interestingly. The worst part is that by the end, Connor is the most interesting he's been so far. We actually get to see his exterior crack and the vulnerability beneath. The reveal that Connor always knew what Jasmine looked like is such a powerful character moment that makes me wish they'd done something with him sooner. But despite us understanding why Connor is the way he is, he's still petulant, stubborn, naive, and humorless to a point that is neither entertaining nor compelling. Connor makes the same mistakes, retreads the same conflict over and over and over in a way that becomes exhaustingly predictable. I kind of covered this in my Wes video, but it's bad. It's poorly executed, confusing, and definitely not entertaining. The show's attempt to sell Wes and Fred as these destined soulmates is completely unsubtle and manages to insult Fred, Gunn, and frankly even Wes as individuals, and it takes up so much screen time. This is sort of an addendum to the thing I did like about the season. The tone, the whole
turgid supernatural soap opera
is fun, but there is a degree to which it is tiring for 22 episodes. And it's kind of built in, right? Like, how can there be levity, really, with Cordy not there and Charisma having a terrible time, Fred and Wes and Gunn all varying levels of angsty towards each other, and Connor being written as he is? This is not a situation that allows for levity. Spin the Bottle was amazing.
The government gave me bad hair.
But it showcases exactly this, that the only way we're getting any levity at all is if the characters are literally alternate versions of themselves. Unsurprisingly, this season also gets compared to Buffy Season 6. Both of the seasons start with the main character out of commission for the summer and the angsty teen being taken care of by the remaining team. And mostly, both are the darkest seasons of the shows, which is often used as a critical descriptor. Both Buffy Season 6 and Angel Season 4 get criticized for being needlessly dark, edgy, and tragic. But the seasons are also very different. Buffy Season 6 feels, as the show often does, more intimate and smaller scale, with the conflicts and storylines being a bit more personal. Whereas this season of Angel gets grander than ever, bigger, and more supernatural. I'd say Buffy Season 6 is more tightly written, simply because it has something to say, in a way that Angel Season 4 never seems to quite put together, even with the Jasmine arc. But in terms of pure entertainment, I will say there are times I definitely prefer the soapy, angsty run of Angel Season 4 for its intensity and ambition alone. Look, I am never going to argue that Angel Season 4 is the best Buffyverse season. It's been some secret triumph of television this whole time. But I do think that the season as a whole can be a bit unfairly lampooned. To me, the bad stuff can be clearly summarized, and the rest, even with its messiness and pitfalls, can still be so engaging. So this is less a defense of the season's obvious, egregious, and terrible elements, and more a call to just take it for what it is. The most fun I have with Season 4 is when I just embrace being along for the ride. So I can never love Angel Season 4, if that was even on the table. But I'm not sure I can hate it either. It's just this weird creature, this chimera of surprising successes and absolute garbage and drama and the worst scenes ever shot. The season can certainly never be categorized as great, or maybe even good, but I don't think it can be dismissed as completely unsalvageable either. I think for better and for worse, it's just Angel Season 4.
I'm still evil. I don't do errands unless they're evil errands.
Being evil is wrong. I want to be good. I want to be Angel again.
They talk about me in the chatty rooms?